It's an age-old question for parents. How do you figure out what the heck is going on inside your teenagers or preteens' head? Well, joining me now is a guy who's doing just that. Welcome, Dr.Steve, to the show. Dr. Steve, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so I got to say, first of all, I worship what you do, because anybody who could try and figure out what goes on inside the brain of a teenager's mind is a hero to me. I have 2 teenage girls, and it's a struggle. But I mean, you have some insights, don't you?
What I'm here to tell you about today is, our approach to public outreach and working with kids and parents and educators to better understand how the brain operates during adolescence, so that they can then work better with those kids.
All right. So we talk about something like plasticity of the brain. What does that mean?
Plasticity means that the brain is not just a file box. It's not a place where we just drop files and information. The brain is constantly changing and remodeling in response to different stimuli. And so we've always, looked to enrich the environments of children as a way to promote healthy brain function. Well, the adolescent period is emerging as a key period for when plasticity is particularly robust. So this is a time when there is still lots of dynamic re-architecture of the brain that's happening, whereas many years ago, people thought that was more restricted to the early childhood period.
In other words, basically what you're saying is that their brains are still developing when they're adolescents.
Absolutely.
Right? Which any grown-up will tell you is definitely part of it. So what should we do about that?
Well, our basic thinking is that if we talk to kids about their brain development and they have a better understanding of the changes that are happening in their brain, that they'll be better equipped to make good decisions and to make good judgments. Because where you see the biggest changes are in executive decision-making, planning, judgment, what people describe as higher cognitive function.
All right, so planning and judgment. It's interesting because I talk to my kids about that all the time, because I know there are studies that show you really don't understand the full responsibility of your actions until you're in your later 20s as far as brain development goes. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so basically by telling your kid, listen, I know that you think that this is the right decision now or what you're doing is right, you really have to give this some time. So you're saying talking to them about that, being clear about that might help.
Absolutely.
Okay, so should we start early? Because with my kids, I started when they were like in middle school. Because I thought, while they're listening to me now, that's a good time, right?
Right. Well, we're approaching mostly ages 9 to 14 years old as kids are emerging into adolescence. And we think that that's a period where they are particularly receptive to learning about these transitions because they're curious about what's going to happen to them, how it's going to compare to their peers, and when it's going to happen.
Right, so basically getting them, someone once told me, this is the best piece of advice I ever got, speak to your kids while they're younger because they're still listening to you. By the time they're teenagers, they're tuning you out.
One of the things that's interesting about adolescence is that it's not a uniquely human phenomenon. If you look across all species, nearly all species go through a period that is similar to adolescence in humans, where there is heightened conflict within the nuclear family, and that is oftentimes, most scientists regard that as a mechanism by which adolescents are compelled to leave the nest. Mm-hmm. And so there's probably some evolutionary importance to the adolescent period that is striving towards independence.
All right, Dr. Steve, you just made me more depressed. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. All right, straight ahead, she was America's sweetheart and Olympic gold medalist Dorothy Hamill is still reaching out and touching and now helping arthritis sufferers with something. It'll cure what ails you. I'll tell you what it is when we come back.